So let us start with a new topic that is called as classification. So why classification is needed? First of all, we have to understand this. But the best example I can give you, suppose मेरे पास एक स्कूल है and I have different standard people like first to 10th. So usually मैंने क्या किया, एक हॉल लिया और सबको बिठा के मैं पढ़ा रहा हूँ. क्या सबको समझेगा? नहीं समझेगा. क्यों नहीं समझेगा? क्योंकि मैंने हर कैटेगरी को एक साथ डाल दिया है और उन सबको हर चीज को पढ़ाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूं. सो इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी फिजिबल फॉर मी. सो टू डू इट विद द राइट और प्रॉपर थिंग, व्हाट आई डिड, मैंने सब क्लासेस को डिवाइड कर दिया. फर्स्ट स्टैंडर्ड बनाया, सेकंड बनाया, थर्ड बनाया, फोर्थ बनाया, फिफ्थ बनाया, सिक्स बनाया, सो दैट आई कैन इजीली हैंडल, so that I can easily teach, so that I can easily deliver what I wish. So that's why the classification, it might be anything, it might be anything. It might be in a company from CEO to worker. It might be in a school from a principal to student. It might be in an environment from bacteria, or it might be in a nature from bacteria to a highermost living organism, that is human being. All we need classification so that we can understand properly what the living organism is, so that we can collect good information about these organisms, so that we can properly compile these information, so that whenever I needed that information, I can easily check out what information is about that organism from extracting that data from millions of organisms. And that's why classification is one of the very important feature to understand each and everything to understand each and every living organism on the surface of Earth. Now, let us consider the first point. What is a definition of classification? Let us understand a first point. What is a definition of classification? Okay. So to understand this, I'll give you one small example. So, suppose there is a newborn baby. Suppose there is a newborn baby. So what is the next step? बच्चा पैदा हुआ. What is the next step? हाँ, मम्मा ने मिल्क पिलाया. That is different. What is the next step? After some days, you will have naming ceremony. Correct? आप लोग उसका नाम रखेंगे. करेक्ट है? नाम रखेंगे. और उसके बाद आप लोग खाली नाम ही नहीं रखते. राकेश, रमेश, सुरेश, खाली नाम ही नहीं रखते. आप लोग उस नाम के साथ में आप उनका सरनेम भी डालते हैं. What do you mean by surname? Surname represents your family name. Like mine is Divakar, so I am belonging to family Divakar. There are some Sheikh, there are some Ansari, there are some Kamble, there are some lot of this is there. So what we do? First, when baby आता है, the first thing that we do, identify. हम नाम ऐसे नहीं रख देते. हम मेल का नाम, सपोज मेल है, मैं उसका नाम शोभा रख दिया. It is not going to be proper. So what I'll do, I'll first define, I'll first identify the baby जो आया है, it is male, or that baby is male or female. And after identification, what I'll do, I'll give name. And after that naming, what I'll do, I'll not give only name. I will add my family name or my surname. This is what it is, classification of my baby जो आया. So like that, in an environment on the surface of Earth, कोई भी जब नया organism मिलता है, any new organism, whenever it is identified, we have to classify. And in what sense, in what way we have to classify? We have to classify on the basis of identification, like जैसा मैंने बेबी का identify किया. फिर उसका मेरे को नामकरण करना पड़ता है, that is nomenclature. And third is what? Classification. तो जैसा मैंने बेबी को नाम रखा, आइडेंटिफाई किया, क्लासिफाई किया, on the basis of that, even I will do with the plant, animal, bacteria, any organism. And that is what classification is, to understand each and every organism, to compile each and every data properly. I need classification. And what is the perfect definition? What is the simplest definition of classification is? Identification, nomenclature, and classification of all living organisms. So this is a proper definition of classification. And so I hope you have understood what is identification. First of all, if any new organism it is just encountered, we have to identify what kind of organism it is. It is animal, it is bacteria, it is a plant or anything. The next very important thing, we have to give a name to that plant. Okay, we'll understand about this nomenclature. So we have to give name to that plant, and that part is called as nomenclature. And usually we prefer scientific names. And the next thing is we have to classify on the basis of their similarities and dissimilarities. So this is about classification, and it is required. It is required for all living organisms. All living organisms. It might be plant, animal, or it might be anyone. It is all classified by this rule. And one more important thing, you have to you have to give all the parameters in this sequence. You can't interchange. Like classification पहला डाल दो, identification बाद में चला गया नहीं. So what you have to do? What is classification? Classification is identification, nomenclature, and what is classification? Identification, nomenclature, and classification of all living organisms present on the surface of Earth. It might be plant, it might be animal, it might be bacteria. So this is about classification. Now, if we move to 20th century से बहुत पहले जाते हैं. So the thing is that लोगों को पहला इतना नहीं था. लोगों के पास क्रूड डेटा था, और उस क्रूड डेटा को वो कंसीडर करके लोगों को क्लासिफाई करते थे या ऑर्गेनिजम्स को क्लासिफाई करते थे. So in classification, let us understand what are the earlier attempts. What in earlier attempt? Scientific attempts तो था ही. Earlier मतलब उन्होंने एकदम start किया था plant और animal को classify करना. So this is about earlier attempts of classification. So the first earlier attempt was done by Aristotle. He is wonderful. For biologists, he is a god because he is father of biology. So Aristotle, father of biology, what he did? He classified organism on the basis of two things: plant and animal. Because on that time, I think microscopy or all these things sort of not there, and that's why there's a possibility Aristotle couldn't identify those microorganisms, and that's why he don't have divided in three categories. He divided in two categories, which is obviously visible, and that is plant and animal. After that, it is not only about, he studied a lot of plants, a lot of animals, and after that, one more thing. He classified plant on the basis of three things: herbs, very small; shrubs, bit big; and trees. So this was the earlier attempt. Earlier means when the biology was started. On that time, Aristotle gave a hypothesis that I will classify all living organisms in plant and animal, and even I'll classify all plants in three categories on the basis of different structure. It might be herb, it might be shrub, or it might be trees. So this is about Aristotle, father of biology, a god of biology. Okay. The next, Chirac. He is wonderful. One of the major field which is giving a green kind of thing to overall, or green biology or green plant to overall new concept of medication, and that is called as Ayurveda. So Charaka was a Ayurveda father of Ayurveda is considered as Charaka. And Charak, he confined to his studies on plants, and he studied all the characteristic feature. Apart from that, he also studied all kind of medicinal feature of different types of plant, and that he included in his book, and that book is called as Charaka Samhita. Okay, so what he did, he listed approximate 200 kinds of plants and animals, or 200 kinds of animals. Apart from that, he also listed 340 kinds of plants on the basis of their characters, on the basis of their medicinal property. So this was a very simplified earlier attempts how the plants and animal was classified, and this is about classification. In this, you have to understand what exactly identification is. The basic definition, identification is, what is classification? Classification, identification, nomenclature, and classification of all living organisms. The earlier attempts were made by Aristotle and Charaka. Aristotle classified plants and animals, and even he gave one more hypothesis of shrub and trees. Next is Charaka. Charaka studied approximate 200 kinds of animal and 340 kinds of plants, even their characteristic feature and even their chemical features or medicinal properties. So this is about classification.